and then we'll get going. All right, so like I said, we are going to look more into the customization for Edgenuity today. So everybody can see a screen of Edgenuity here. You can't see any of you, so silence is good. This is what you would have whenever you get into Edgenuity, as we talked about yesterday. We focused yesterday going into that course structure so that you could then see all of the classes that are in there, anything that, if you wanted to preview stuff like that. Today, we're going to look at managing courses. So all of you should have the permissions to be able to customize a course. If, for whatever reason, you get in here after this or during this, and you're like, I can't, it doesn't give me the option to customize, just let me know. You should have that ability, and if we didn't, I apologize. But whenever we set up everything, we should have had that. So this is the summer school course because it will have Connor in there and stuff like that. But Digital Academy will look very similar in terms of this setup. Anything that's an SYC course with an asterisk is the most recent one that has been adjusted. But what we'll do is we'll mess around with an English 7 course. So if I go in there and I'm going to click on that button on the side there beside English 7, what will come up is a number of different things. I can see my grade book, and I can click on that if I wanted to. And I can go to the course, and I can see that at this point in time, Jake Scholas has done nada. Right now he's on the warm-up, and as he would keep going, this would be a scrolling bar. I can potentially go in here and I can see my students. I can manage enrollments if I wanted to. And that's where things are moving slow over here at Southern. I can add people. I can see the disabled. I can see who's active, stuff like that.
Andy, mine says view teachers, not view students.
Well, that's because there's no students in yours right now.
Okay, I didn't know if it was.
That's a good question. Nope, that's a good question. Yeah, there's just no students in there right now. Right. So like this one I picked just because I put in Michelle's children and
right.
Honor. So like I know to your point, Nick, of yesterday, like it's once there's more students in there, you'll be able to view that part of that. But yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah.
You can edit course options. We'll get into that. If you wanted to add to groups, again, we'll get into groups at a different time. But if you click on the more, it's going to bring to you a number of different things. So for your sake, you would probably want to be looking at either viewing the course structure for the first time if you hadn't already done that. You could look at the scope and sequence and download what that looks like. But here we're going to look at customizing. And so it's going to give you the ability in some courses to create a new course based on all of this. And in there, when I click on that, this is what's going to come up eventually. It's going to give a breakdown of all of the courses, all of the things that's inside a course. In here, you can click on a unit, and it's going to bring in anything that's in there. And if I click on that, it'll actually give me then the unit or the objectives for that lesson. It'll then break down all of the different things here, as the warm-up instruction, everything like that. Let's say for whatever reason, as I'm going through this, reviewing, you're meeting with your department, however that is, and you don't want something in there. So let's say I don't want narrator's view of homesick. I can then click on that checkbox, and if you can see here, it has that gray circle. That means it's now been taken out. So the student would never even see that existed in the course. So I'm going to keep that in there. But and in here, you can see unit test, all of those different things. If I keep scrolling down, anything that's in here you have. So like if you don't want to give a cumulative exam for the midterm and final timelines, you can just boom, take that out, and it's going to take that out of the course.
Can you do that by student, or is that for, I mean, like whole group, or specifically by a student? Like I don't want this particular group of kids to have to do this activity. Sorry if I'm jumping ahead.
No, that's a good point. No, you can do that by group. You can do that by student. You can do that by individual.
Andy, if we were to take out specific lessons, could we then alter the test that they already have set up?
So it will alter the test. So if you add an activity in there from Edgenuity or you take one out, I forget I think they call it like their smart test algorithm or whatever, it will then remove it from that test or add it to that test or quiz. But you can't physically go in and pick and choose which questions to take out of that, if that makes sense. Is that what you're asking? I'm not sure if I answered that. But
yes, you did. I was just worried, like if I took out, the Native Americans before Columbus came to America, which is not something that they teach in 8th grade at our school. I wasn't sure how that would react to the test that was set up, but you did answer it.
Right. Okay. Just wanted to make sure. So in this whole view, you can see that you can add a unit. So like before I get there, you can filter to different activity types if you really wanted to. So, you can see how many warm-ups are here, instructions, assignments. Let's say you didn't want them to do any essays, which you're not going to do, but let's just say you did. You can then click on essay, and every essay for the entire course is going to be taken out. I'm not going to do that, but you could do that if you wanted to. So like this would be, if you didn't want exams or whatever you wanted to, that would be holistically for the whole course. So that's super important to see, like if you wanted to take that out, projects, whatever. I'm going to get rid of that. What you can do then from the first part is if you're just looking at the units, you can add an entire unit. So like, let's say you wanted to add a unit on, I don't know, the one and only Ivan. I know is not, but you just wanted to add that. And then in there, whoops, you can then go in and build out more activities and topics. So I could have in chapter 1, and then in chapter 1, I can then start adding activities. So I show you this because this is how you can build out like a book study if you wanted to. This is how you could build out if you're going to have them do something that's going to be completely off of Edgenuity in an entire unit framework. So like, Laura, if you were going to do a book study of whatever it is, this is a way that you could start to build that out. You can try to add activities that are from Edgenuity in there, but most likely if you're going to do like a whole class book, you're going to be putting in your own things anyways. And that could be something very simple as, you just put in the first unit name, then you put in an activity that has, a folder to all that stuff that's in there. But you can add a whole unit.
Sorry, Andy, is that something that we're like, you said yesterday something about clicking on something that would take me to my, like a Google folder drive. Is that a place that you can put that in there? Like if you add an activity, it would be a link to my Google. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can, that is a way you can do it. Like I'll show you a different way that I would probably do it, just so that you can see that. But that's a really good question. I was thinking of this part is, and this is not, this is anybody, like this is not an expectation that you then include your own units of things. This is if you want to add something that, would be good for the order of the group or whatever. So if you're starting, I can't see anybody's face right now, but if you're panicking, try not to panic. This is just so that you can see it from a unit build point of view first. So great question. So let's say we're going to go into something that we've already, and you can move all of this stuff around. Like you can move units around. So let's say you know that you go through this and you want to move exploring who we are to the end. That's obviously going to adjust anything within quizzes, exams, stuff like that. If you took out a whole unit, I think it was Katrina, I think that was your voice that asked, like, it would then take it out of the cumulative exam and all of that stuff. So we're looking at an actual Edgenuity course or unit that's in there. So I click on that, and what I can do, yep.
Right. So if you create that unit, you add that whole new unit, book study, what have you in there, you can unclick things so it comes out of the exam. Now, if you add stuff in, that's not going to be, nothing's going to be added into the exam because you created it.
Right.
Okay, just want to double check.
No, that's a great question. Right. If you put in like something like that and just there, that's not going to be added to the exam. The only thing that would be added to an exam is if you put in like Edgenuity content with it, which I'm going to show you here. That's a great question. So
If
you
we add to it and we're creating our own stuff, are we creating it in the same format that the other things are in? Like, is there a guided creation thing, or?
So I'm getting there.
Okay, I can be patient.
It's simple, but I'm getting there. Yep. So I go into expectations, and I see here are the different parts of that unit. If I wanted to add a topic to that, and so to Laura, your question, like, this is probably something where I would consider putting it in here. So resources. I'm in the unit, and now I'm going to add a topic. So in that topic, if I click on that, here's where you can add lessons, or you can add different things. And hold on, let me get out of there. So this resource area is where I might want to add something in there. Okay, so once I do that and I click on there, I can now add an activity, and either I can add, it's going to be under two different options, a writing prompt or a project. Unless you're really going to put in a writing prompt, like a hardcore writing prompt, I would always pick project, because that brings in the ability to create like a simple thing. You can either have something really intricate for a project, or you can have something here. And once you start making projects and things, it's always going to be in your activity option here. So like I made a silly biome field trip one, and I made a resource folder. So if I wanted to add that resource folder in here, I could by clicking the add button. But for today, let's just go into create a new activity. So once you look at the activity types, there's going to be 4 different options: project, a lab report, a writing, or a performance task. If you're like, I don't know, I want this just to be something for them to have resources or for them to do, I would pick performance task. I give it my name. This unit. I go into, here are the resources. And then you have a bunch of different options that you could put in here. So like, let's say you wanted them to have, you know, a PowerPoint or a doc or something from a PDF, you could do that. If you wanted to share something from your drive, here's where you would put in that shareable link. So I'm going to put in maybe, I'll just put in a basketball folder. It's simple. Server error. And then I'll just put in off-season 2019, so anybody can have access to what I do in the off-season. Maybe. So as this is loading, what I'll be able to do, and you can do the same as a doc. So I'll copy that link. I'll go back to Edgenuity. And here I am. So I'm going to add that. I can go into my weights, and you can just put that as additional and hit save. So from here, to Laura's idea, this is where they could have in expectations the resources first for that unit. Okay. And then they can move on to introduction of things, stuff like that. If you want to add an Edgenuity activity, you can do that by clicking on here. And then you can maybe. Goodness, sorry everyone. And then here, maybe, is where you can add those activities and everything in there. Once you mess around with all of this, you can go through, you can have however much you want, you can move it around. This is, Katrina was saying, if you know you don't do something in there right now or at all, or in a different order, you can move all of that around. And then what you'll need to do is give it a unique name. So for this year, we're going to keep the SYC at the front. And again, we'll go over this on Monday. You can keep the SYC in the front, but we want to give your name to that. So like Sheila English 7. And then make sure you hit save. And then you can go to publish course. All right, so it'll give you this sign that comes up here. It says, click the publish or return to customization. I'm going to go to publish, and it's going to give you the ability to look at course options. So in here, we're going to keep the thresholds the same for 70, 70, 70. If we need to make accommodations for individual students, we can as we get into some of that stuff. But what that will do, like we could put it at 65 and then the kids will get it exactly at 65, but especially for the 10 question quizzes, it's going to need to be a 7 or higher with that. And then some of these course weights are defaulted into either what we've had over the years or what we have through Edgenuity. These are areas where you're able to make those adjustments. Where I want to talk about that further, so we're all on the same page on Monday with that. But these are your course weights. So like as long as it adds up to 100, and it'll tell you if you're deficient. You could add, onto that. As long as you're at 100. Oh. As long as you're at 100, you're going to have that there. Okay. When we keep going down with assessment options, here's where right now it's defaulted on. You can allow to save and exit on quizzes, tests, and exams. We want to keep it that way so that is more times than not, in my experience, if we don't enable that, then they're just going to rush through it or whatnot. Some people, things come up at home. Digital Academy world is a different world. And here's where those e-notes that we talked about yesterday, if you missed yesterday, you can look at the recording. But this is where if we want to allow e-notes on quizzes, tests, and exams. And as Nick asked a great question, we don't need them to use e-notes, but it's an option for them to have there. You're going to see here the fail attempt allowed. So here would be 2 times that they can fail it, and if they fail it more than that, then it's going to lock them. And then we're going to always click on teacher support. That will always be there. And then here would be some of those teacher review areas. So yesterday, Laura asked a really great question. Do we want them to always stop before quizzes and then have to look at emails and stuff like that? It is defaulted that tests and exams are there. If you want to add quizzes so that you have to review and lock them before they can move on to a quiz, that's up to you. And again, on Monday, if we want to have a discussion and everyone's like, why don't we all just do it? That's fine. You can also do that for a specific student down the road. So it doesn't have to be for everyone, but that Andy and Connor really need to be checked before they get onto a quiz. That's something you can make change. We've got e-notes. We don't want them to have free movement. Free movement would mean that they can do any activity at any time. And then the rest of these different parts are just defaulted. And then I'd click on submit changes. And then this is going to come up, which is do not make any change to current students that have assigned this course. At the beginning of it, you're going to have that before you assign anybody courses. But if you made any changes in real time, that's where you would update the courses, students that are currently on there, and then it would go into some of these things. That would be like your real-time changes if you wanted to do it holistically. So you wanted to add a unit, you wanted to add a resource folder, you wanted to add an activity. That's where that would be. For the beginning of the year, it's going to be, you're not changing any students because you're doing that before you add that in there. And then you hit submit, and then you'll see this little green thing. It's going to seem like you did nothing, but changes were made successfully. And then you go into your manage courses. Here is going to be where Shiloh English 7. So from a course customization point of view, we typically had not provided that as an ability or option for teachers on a large scale before. Not because they didn't trust anybody to do it. It's just there were so few students in Digital Academy that it was much more of like a touch base as you come. Whereas, you've got more kids now that class full rosters of different things. I know I went through that fast, and it's going to make a lot more sense on Monday, but at least I wanted you to be able to see it twice. What questions do you have now? I don't think Kate's in here because she's walking around with Audrey.
Andy, you said on that last screen about making those changes, like at the start of the year, that would be like before the kids get involved with starting. What if you maybe come October, November, you see a unit that you didn't preview yet, and you're like, oh, I definitely want to change this or add that. You can still do it at that point, even though it wasn't. Okay.
Yep.
You just click that middle button rather than the top button.
Right.
Okay.
Andy, do you know, is our priority to be keeping our digital students kind of doing similar things to what's going on in the brick and mortar with the brick and mortar students, or are we kind of just trying to make it interesting or bring more life to it? Kind of.
I think it's more having like a personal touch to it in terms of like knowing there's a person on the other side of the computer in some part. I don't know that you necessarily need to be doing the exact things that are happening in school because you're still following the same standards no matter what with that. But like knowing that there's somebody working with their child, if that makes sense. Because there is so many, like we're now, I get 115 or 120 for the middle school.
Yeah, yesterday when I was in, Lisa said we were at 119.
Right. So I know there was at least one overnight that were enrolled at the middle school. So that's super exciting about that. We're about 700 for the K to 12 now. So that's kind of course customization. You can also do that on a personal level. So like I'll show you Connor. So let's say here I am in Connor's course, and he's gone through, and I just want to take out something for Connor, or I just want to add something for him. I did that fast. If I go into here and I click on that edit button, you're going to see that there's a lot of different things here that we're going to get into more as we hit the school year. Not that I'm negating or neglecting showing you certain things, but I've shown you a lot pretty quickly. What you can do is, if you want to change something for a specific student, if you go to edit options, this is where you could add the quiz and activities review if you wanted to. That, you could add all of these things that maybe nobody else has, or you just want quiz for Connor, and that's only going to affect Connor. Same would work with customization of a specific course. So you see that he is struggling or doesn't need something.
I have no idea how you got to make it specific for Connor. I'm sorry.
No, that's my fault. So if you go to manage students.
Okay, through manage students, click on student.
No, I have to apologize to everybody. I've done this for so many years. You fly through things. You go to students, manage students. Once you click on, you can either just click on his name, or if you click on the side, it's going to give you all of these options. And then for me, I'm going to click on his name. And here's just going to bring me to that. Sorry, Nick, that's a great question.
Okay, I see now where you're at.
Okay. So I'll click on the edit part, and I'm going to go to customize. So before I went to edit options, and that's where I could add, quiz retakes or quiz review requirements, things like that. If I go to customize, it is going to bring me to a very similar screen as the one that I saw. And now I see that I had my resource folder in there. That's great. But I want to take out all of Earth's waters just because I feel like it, or because he doesn't need it, or whatever that reason would be. This would take out the entire unit. If I just want to take out, a lesson within that, I could just do that. And it would now impact the topic test to not include anything on ocean pollution. That would be just for Connor. And I would publish a course. It would take me to all of these. It's always going to take you to check course options. Because sometimes, like if you take something out, it may take out all of the labs, which would screw up your total weights. And I'll click submit. And now Connor's been adjusted. I can also, with Connor, I can go into scores and activity. We'll get into some of those different things. But if I wanted to look at additional activities, let's say you did something that's not an Edgenuity, you could give a score to it. That's for a different dollar for a different day. I know I went fast, and I promise you we'll spend some more time on customization with your whole students in there. The first part I showed you would be more for your whole class or for groups whenever you get groups in there. Now I just showed you more looking at the specific student side of it. The other thing that we can look at today, so yesterday I showed you the dashboard. And this would be for all of the kids that are in that school at that time, and you can see all of the courses that they're taking. You can build these filters down into a specific course. So like, I don't know that Laura is going to want to look at anything but English 7 at a different, at any given time. So in here, we can see that Jake Scholas is the only student in English 7. As the school year gets built and we have courses in there, we're going to see all of the ones in here. This would give you any alerts that we talked about, those red, yellow, and green, yellow, red, and orange alerts. That will bring you in there. You can see their courses and their grades. If I click on that, I can actually see that I can get in there to customize. I can edit options and things like that. I can filter it down by group once we build groups out early next week. And then here, like if you had, so like let's say Laura, you wanted to add all of your 7th and 8th grade English kids together to be seeing them, you could do that. And in doing that, I don't have anybody in that group, but it would filter into here. And then you could look at it by student and grade level. And if I just wanted to look at all the 7th grade students, I could do that, okay? The other area where we can go into, and what I'll show you here is the ability to, you see that Connor needs a retake. And it's going to show, I've got Connor put in here as somebody that can float around. But once you're in here and you just click on that class, and I think Becky had found this before, it's going to show you exactly where that student is. Right now, Connor still needs to finish the biome field trip. And this would show in that yellow where he is. But because I was messing around to show you certain things, right now Connor has taken a quiz. And in a normal world, it would have Connor in yellow right here and the quiz. And you can see that, as we showed yesterday, he's taken 2 attempts. He's got a 30%. You do however you want with all of those different things. You've got a couple of options of what you can do on the side here. I can change his score, and I could change it to 70 and life could be good. I can reset the activity, which would restart it. This would be really useful in your day-to-day stuff of somebody that's not doing work completely. And you can do that for any activity. That could be somebody that has rushed through something, they didn't do it right, they just wrote 3 words that don't make sense or go together because they have figured out it'll still pass them through. I can view answers.
That's for the individual, right?
Right, this is for individual. I can bypass, if there's an activity here. So for if I'm on biome, I can bypass him, and it's a best practice to put a reason because, and I submit it, and now Connor can be moving on to vocabulary and stuff like that. But for quizzes, if I'm going to give them a retake.
Andy, I'm sorry. Why is it blue and why is it yellow? I feel, are you selecting and making it blue because that's where you want him to be, and yellow is where he is?
If it's in yellow, that's what he's currently on.
Right.
So I think I actually hit the wrong thing.
And blue is you selecting the thing that you as a teacher want to work on and change?
Right.
Okay.
So you see I actually successfully bypassed him through biome. So now it's in yellow because he's now on the vocabulary.
Right. So you bypass that, he's on yellow, and if now's where you can play around with vocabulary. But if you want to play around with the quiz, you click on quiz and it becomes blue, and then that's what you're working on.
Yep.
Okay. Sorry.
No, you're fine. No, you're fine. If you add retake, here's where you can add 1 retake, you can add 2, and then you can put it for whatever that time is. If you default it, it's going to be fine. And then you'd hit submit.
What is the expectation with amount of retakes that we give, that we allow? That I feel like you talked about that a bit yesterday, and we're adding them. Obviously, is it if they don't get the 70% 2 times? The idea is that we work with that individual for a little while, try to refine it so that and then they get another retake. And
yes, so a good practice is that, let's say they fail it twice. You do some form of remediation with them, and that could be, and not limited to, a hangout, meet. It can be you send an email asking them what questions they have. It can be, if it's math, asking to see their work through, a picture or something like that. It can be you sending them a review Quizlet, more of those different things. However that works with you, for you and that student or group of students. Typically, most of our Digital Academy teachers will give them 1 retake, and then if they still haven't passed it, they'll give them the whatever that current grade is, and they move on, because they could get stuck there for days, hours, months, whatever. But some form of remediation and intervention, so that you're doing something with them that either is reteaching it, understanding where they're missed it, going through the quiz with them as what they got right and what they did not get right, and reviewing some of that stuff. So does that answer your question, Nick?
yeah, it does. Thanks.
Okay. And now we'll see, because I gave him another retake, he has 1 remaining. We can see that. Another thing that I did with Connor, just to be able to show you, is I went in and I did a journal activity. Now, in the real way of everything going through, he would have to do vocab, then direct instruction, then online content, and so on. But because I wanted to show you this part, so he did a journal activity, and he got scored a 0%. Most times, the system will score these journal activities based upon if the students have like some of the keywords and if they have whole sentences. I see that Connor took 9 seconds to do that. So if I wanted to, I can view that activity. And in here, what it'll give me is what the prompt is, what the student's response is, and then what a sample answer would be. So here you can do a number of different things. You can change the score. So because I said this is a test response, so obviously that didn't come close to what he was supposed to do. I can change the score to 50% if I wanted to. I can also give comments for if you gave more.
Andy, I think you have a pop-up or there's something. Because
oh, no, I do. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Let me change. I'm going to unshare and I'm just going to reshare. Sorry, guys. That's my fault. Thanks, Kate, for telling me. All right. Now, can you see better? There we go. So, is that able to see now, this pop-up?
Yeah, it's better.
Okay. So here is my initial response, Connor's initial response. This is the test response. Here's the prompt, why are models useful for earth science? And then here's, your sample answer that you could go off of if you haven't gone through all of those different things. If I wanted to change my score, I could change my score to 40%. And now it's going to reflect up here. If I wanted to give comments, I would like you to give a reasoning. You can do that.
Is this for just like content area activities? Like, what does it look like? Is it the same format for English and essays?
Yep.
Like how it's with keywords?
So for essays and things like that, it's going to require you to grade that. But this is for like short activities and content.
Okay. All right.
You can give comments here. You could give audio comments if you wanted to. If you're somebody that is buying into the idea of doing a screencastify, you could put in the link to that, however that looks for you, and then you can update comments, and here you are. And so now, before he had a 0, and it'll update here to a 40%. So Laura, to go back to Laura's really good question again, as we get into the school year, we do some follow-up review ones with this. You'll see when you go into dashboard. So Laura, if you're worried about like, oh my gosh, how am I going to know what I'm grading, what I'm not grading? It will give, let me get rid of all my filters. It will give here if there's something that you need to grade. It'll be in yellow. It'll say, okay, here, and then you'll be able to click on that, and then it'll go right to that activity. We're going to do like a whole dashboard day after the first week of school, or going through that, that will show you, okay, now I know I have to grade this, and here's how I can see through all of that stuff. That was more of, okay, here's how I can go through and see what a specific student has done and stuff like that. The last thing that, in terms of like some day-to-day management of things, as you go through and you're looking, through your dashboard, and you can see, your students are in certain spaces and places. That's where you can kind of hone in and say, okay, either I'm going to do a live lesson, because I know, like, I forget who it was that said, I kind of want to do, some of that live lesson part. That's where you can say, I want everybody to be in specifically earth science, let's say. I want everybody to be done with the quiz by Monday, because now you're going to do the direct instruction for a study of earth science. If anybody looks at any of the Edgenuity stuff, they'll show you that you can broadcast a live lesson of this through Meet or Zoom. But in my personal opinion, if you're going to do a live lesson, why not you go through some of that? Like, it just shows you that you can broadcast this video that goes in there. But that's where, in terms of looking at pacing, looking at what each person has and some of those different things, that's where you can say, I want everybody done with this, especially for content areas. If you get labs or Laura, you're getting to some of your writing pieces. I want everybody to be at this point by this date, so that we can then do a pre-writing live lesson or whatever that is. For the beginning of the year, quite honestly, I think if you're helping your kids just at least go through and make sure they're doing stuff, and you're focusing anything that you do live with them on, more of that connection and social emotional part of things. The content's there, the pacing is there, and then as you make connections with your group and you kind of get them feeling like there's another person on the other side and stuff like that, you can dive into more live things and stuff of that nature.
Andy, I have a quick question. Sorry, this is from I think a question yesterday, but I wanted to clarify. We have the kids' rosters in Sapphire. Are we just entering an end of the marking period grade for those kids because Edgenuity is grading in that platform, or are we transferring every single assignment because some things aren't graded? And
Kate can fact check me, but it is my understanding that you would be putting the end of the marking period grade at the end.
Okay.
Because all of the stuff, and because they also have a parent portal and they get daily reports. So like, there's not, one of the values of Sapphire is that it will do all those calculations for you, and it'll communicate to the parents.
What was
okay.
Sorry, Laura, I just sat down. What was I heard the tail end of that question.
I just wanted to make sure, I was just clarifying from yesterday because I heard part of Andy's answer was you have to put things in a Sapphire, and then I had like a mini panic attack of, oh my God, we have to take every single assignment and essay grade and quiz grade and transfer that into like Sapphire. But then I was like, well, maybe he just meant like it's the end of the marking period grade. So is it just their course grade for the marking period or semester that we have to enter?
Yeah, so mid-marking period and marking period.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry if I misspoke yesterday. That's what I meant to say, but that's my bad. Sorry for the panic attack, Laura.
Andy, I just had one quick question that was not on what you did today. Yesterday you showed a student view. Can I get to a student view?
Yes.
Or not yet?
Yes. So what you can do let me show you here. Let's do my captioning. So if you want, you're sitting there like, all right, I need to see this as a student would, and I can't wait until kids are in there on whatever date. If you go to students and manage students, what you can do, and I know, Becky, you would figure this out, but I don't know if anybody else had, you can click on select my account, and then you can add courses in there. So like I have a ton. And from there, what you can do, I'm going to sign out of my teacher one. If you go to the Edgenuity student login, but you can either go through the Edgenuity website, or if you go to the full website under student portal, and you log in with the same way you would your teacher account, you can go in there as a student and be a part of anything you want to. And it's not going to mess with anything in the world. Is that what you were trying to do, Becky?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
So I would just go from the school website. There's, like the student profile, go to Edgenuity.
Yep. So on the school website.
Okay. I think I got it.
No, well, I'll show it too. School website's being super slow for me the last couple of days. Either way, eventually it'll get there. Go to the school website, student portal, and then there's Edgenuity student in there.
Okay. Thank you.
Have you restarted lately?
Yeah.
I don't have a problem.
I haven't done
You
that.
need to restart.
Anything else I can show you all? Like I said, by Monday, the first wave of students will be in Edgenuity. I say first wave because I don't know how many people are going to enroll between now and then. But we'll then look at any customization and then adding your courses to their student accounts and stuff like that. We'll have some time to walk through that again, and then be able to give you work time for that. As we go through the school year, everyone, but especially Laura, Becky, and Katrina, who this is the majority, if not all, of what they're doing, will have times where, like, okay, we're going to sit, and this whole purpose of the 30 minutes is dashboard. So that now you've got kids that have turned stuff in, they've done things, here's dashboard, and here's how you can see what that looks like with real student stuff, and some more 30-minute quick hitter things that will be helpful. And anybody's welcome to join that. We'll record those so that if anybody who can't view that would be there, can do that as well. And then for anybody that's doing both in school and this, we'll have time that is not going to ruin your day for that.